Did the great Anunnaki emerge together with the universe from a sudden burst of celestial fire? Or did they bloom as one from a dark, submerged abyss? Sumerian records speak of an era that preceded those first shimmering stars by eons before they cast light upon the void. This was a period of profound stillness, a time when the cosmos lay nestled in a cradle of shadows, long before mortal breath could ever disturb its perfect peace. Ancient scribes described this age as a boundless, yielding realm of unshaped water. There was no solid ground to walk upon, lacking any gentle winds to stir dark surfaces. Vast depths stretched endlessly in every direction, holding the heavy tranquility of an unwritten future. Within this limitless liquid expanse existed Nammu, known to early priests as our great Sea Mother. She was not a being of flesh, but rather a pure essence of nurturing moisture. Her immense waters formed a single unbroken womb, cradling a silent void. Total maternal quiet reigned across her dark abyss, while undisturbed shifting tides floated peacefully in a deep, eternal slumber. This primeval ocean held the raw potential for everything destined to come into being. Sleeping safely within gentle currents lay the unseen seeds of towering mountains, along with sweeping earthly valleys. As countless epochs passed silently, our primeval mother slowly prepared to divide her boundless realm, holding sweet moisture alongside bitter and heavier currents. Soon this unified abyss would slowly divide into distinct entities, carving out massive domains within the dark expanse. If you are listening to this in the still, quiet darkness of the night, your mind slowly unwinding as the deep history unfolds, consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. It helps these stories live on and reach others seeking to share the same quiet space of rest. If you want, let us know where you are joining us from and what time you are listening in the comments section. And if you would like extended, ad-free versions of these videos, those are available to you at the Legends of the Dawn membership. Now, let us return to a time when all the world was being born. Ancient Babylonian records, known as the Enuma Elish, reveal a gentle settling of sweet fresh water into a calm reservoir known globally as Abzu. These pristine life-giving currents drifted peacefully below all other things, forming a hidden sanctuary of flawless purity. Bitter salt tides gathered themselves into an immense ocean called Tiamat, wrapping around her sweeter counterpart. These massive bodies of opposing water found a perfect harmony within their separation. Sweet currents flowed softly beneath her mysterious waves, maintaining a steady, unbroken rhythm of existence throughout the early cosmos. These colossal forces existed without conflict, constantly swirling along their shared borders in a peaceful embrace. It was a hypnotic dance of fluid elements moving through pure darkness. Hidden depths churned with a slow, meditative rhythm, pulsing like a submerged heartbeat in a formless void. Fresh streams from Abzu continually reached out to touch bitter edges of Tiamat, seeking a gentle union. Saltwater currents embraced those gentle intrusions within a maternal womb, sheltering every drop of sweet moisture. Friction from their meeting generated a continuous, tranquil hum, resonating through the stillness of a dormant universe. This continuous merging of sweet liquid with salt water acted as an incubator nurturing unseen seeds of life. Powerful forces began to gather within this swirling aquatic embrace, preparing a dark canvas for future designs. Profound chemical transformations were slowly taking place deep below unlit surfaces, directed by an ancient magic. Formless matter drifted patiently, condensing at a glacial pace, while gentle collisions of opposing currents provided the perfect nourishment for early creation, stirring a boundless void into physical form. Heavy waters were finally preparing to yield their very first solid precipitations, ending a massive epoch of isolation. Divine sparks of awareness slowly gathered together like salt crystals in a black void, waiting to awaken. Out of those gentle aquatic collisions emerged two primordial entities known to early scribes as Lahmu, alongside his companion Lahamu. These distinct beings took shape like minerals solidifying on a quiet riverbed. Born directly from a mingling of Abzu with Tiamat, they carried traits of sweet moisture alongside bitter depths. Lahmu represented a gradual thickening of silt within vast cosmic waters, while his twin Lahamu embodied those same accumulating sediments. Together they stood as vital boundaries within a previously limitless ocean, taking permanent physical shape. The rhythmic breathing of creation pulsed deeply as solid forms demanded their own unique spaces within an expanding celestial architecture. Then came another magnificent pair of structural deities. Anshar emerged majestically to command the highest towering limits of existence. Kishar awakened simultaneously to govern all lower foundations forming beneath him. Dwarfing their predecessors, their immense presence established a vast boundary between upper realms alongside lower depths. Unformed space was now stretched taut between two massive opposing forces. Their combined divine bodies created the ultimate borders of an entirely new reality, creating the framework for an organized universe to lock firmly into alignment. Millions of years passed by as divine forms slowly gathered their strength. Without a glowing sun to track passing days, the universe simply relied on a steady mechanical thrumming of ocean tides. These earliest deities prepared to shape a grand destiny for all future existence. Their massive forms strained against surrounding waters, their movements generating a profound mechanical vibration. The quiet tranquility of a primeval era slowly fractured under this new physical weight. Anshar intertwined perfectly with Kishar to form a single impenetrable mass. Upper limits locked tightly into lower boundaries without any space between, creating a physical realm that was completely devoid of breathable air. Heaven remained permanently bonded to earth in a crushing embrace, while absolute darkness reigned supreme within its dense, celestial core. A rhythmic breathing of our unformed world shifted its quiet cadence, moving gracefully toward the impending separation of heaven from earth. The outer limits of our newly formed cosmos had been established with the awakening of Anshar and Kishar. But within this massive framework, the primordial Sea Mother Nammu continued her silent work of creation. She gathered raw potential from deep waters and brought forth a new pair of majestic deities. From these ancient depths emerged An, destined to become the great god of starry skies. Alongside him awakened a yielding earth goddess who would eventually nurture all life, known as Ki. While their predecessors represented vast horizons of reality, this younger couple formed the solid physical interior of our universe. This divine couple settled into the center of our newly defined cosmos, locked together much like their ancestors in absolute totality. Our Sky Father held his earthly partner close within his vast arms, their immortal forms remaining completely indistinguishable from one another. A quiet maternal darkness wrapped around this inseparable union, offering them absolute sanctuary. Heavenly limits fused seamlessly with lower foundations to forge a single heavy unit of raw cosmic potential, while unseen forces stirred gently within. For the magic of creation to continue, the heavy sky would need to be lifted away from the yielding ground. Divine awareness slowly gathered within a narrow gap, separating An from the earthly body of Ki. This gathering energy began to pulse with a steady, mechanical thrumming that resonated through the crushing weight of the silent abyss. A gradual thickening of purpose filled the dormant world, creating a divine friction which generated those very first traces of warm atmosphere. From this unseen pressure emerged a vibrant air deity, known to ancient scribes as the god Enlil. He found himself trapped within a dense cosmic core, craving the relief of refreshing breezes to fill his immortal lungs. Enlil possessed a restless energy, demanding vast areas of open space for his immediate expansion. He realized his parents could not remain so completely entangled if a sprawling earthly garden was to eventually grow toward the light. True cosmic development required a violent but entirely necessary disruption of their eternal unity to forge a proper sky. With deliberate grace, he placed his feet firmly against a terrestrial floor. Pressing his broad shoulders upward against an unyielding canopy, he gauged the heavy burden resting upon his back. His efforts were gentle at first, testing the limits of his strength before his divine muscles tightened with unimaginable force, lifting the immense roof of reality. The solid architecture of existence began to groan heavily under his increasing pressure, the stagnant cosmos preparing to fracture. Heaven strained against this upward thrust of early wind, while earth was forced downward into a deep, watery sanctuary far below. It was this gradual, monumental movement of divine will that permanently altered the quiet harmony of the ancient world. Enlil refused to yield his position within a cramped celestial womb. As he continued to exert his vibrant energy against the dark canopy, a sudden tearing sensation rippled through the black, unlit void. Enlil thrust his father endlessly upward to form a high vaulted dome over the resting earthly plains. He drove his mother infinitely downward to establish a firm foundation where the heavy waters could eventually settle in peace. Breathable space existed for the very first time as a heavy atmosphere lifted away from the ground below. A flawless void filled suddenly with rushing aerial tides, while fresh winds sighed across the newly opened terrestrial plain. It was the first breath for a waking cosmos that had slumbered in absolute stillness for what seemed an eternity. Enlil stretched his immortal limbs, filling the empty expanse with his roaring presence and establishing an unbreakable cycle of atmospheric motion. Sweeping breezes swept across dark mud, allowing it to dry and solidify after having been submerged in darkness since the dawn of time. Unseen forces stirred a chaotic surface into highly organized ridges as rushing winds sculpted the barren wastelands. Powerful gusts of air brought an end to a long era of stagnation. In its wake was a floating sense of universal harmony as the heavens settled into their proper vertical alignment. With the heavy sky finally lifted, an endless horizon was revealed to stretch infinitely across the waking world. There were no shores to crash against in this pure aerial sanctuary, as those first winds traveled without any worldly obstruction. A soothing mechanical thrumming of wind slowly replaced the silent heartbeat of deep water as the universe expanded. While An claimed the ethereal heights of his celestial throne, Ki held the foundations of the world in an eternally nurturing embrace. Enlil stood proudly between them, moving with a flawless cadence to claim supremacy over his kingdom and to secure a breathable haven for everything yet to come. Together, they waited patiently for a beautiful complex awakening of the first majestic light. Our newly formed universe possessed a breathable atmosphere, filled with rushing winds, yet it remained entirely cloaked in absolute blackness. An endless aerial vault stretched infinitely above that terrestrial foundation, waiting patiently for a sudden divine spark to pierce its impenetrable shadows. Enlil moved gracefully through his vast kingdom of circulating air, a deep contemplation stirring within him as he searched for a gentle way to bring radiant beauty to an unlit cosmos. It was during this quiet era of formless shadows that Enlil joined with his lovely partner Ninlil to forge a brilliant solution. Their divine union produced a magnificent sun, destined to conquer the great darkness. This radiant child was known to ancient priests as Nana, a majestic moon god entrusted with the sacred duty to illuminate an empty firmament. This shimmering deity possessed a cool brilliance that would forever alter our visual landscape with his glowing presence. Ancient scribes pressed beautiful memories of his celestial ascent into soft river clay with absolute, quiet reverence. They described how Nana slowly floated upward from the subterranean depths to claim his lofty throne, high above the earthly plains. His gradual rise introduced a soft silver glow to an environment that had previously known only blinding blackness. Pale lunar light spilled across the barren wastelands for the very first time. Endless ridges of newly dried mud caught this gentle reflection, casting long, mysterious shadows across the barren terrestrial floor. This original illumination was entirely free from the harsh, scorching heat of a rising sun. Nana offered a perfect, soothing glow that embraced sleeping valleys with immense maternal gentleness. An undisturbed wilderness stretched out far below his watchful gaze, appearing incredibly pristine under the quiet, luminous vault of early creation. Immense bodies of water caught his shimmering reflection upon their glassy surfaces. Endless rolling tides of Abzu mirrored his celestial glow, creating a mesmerizing dance of scattered silver upon the deep, oceanic realms. Such delicate lighting required an exact celestial accounting to maintain a perfect universal balance. Our moon god established a rhythmic waxing alongside his gradual waning to mathematically measure the passing months. He grew full with vibrant energy before slowly retreating into a dark sliver, setting a vital, chronological heartbeat for all future life. Nana did not rule his sprawling night sky entirely alone. Soon countless stars emerged to accompany his nightly journey. Records from antiquity show that magnificent constellations were meticulously positioned to create a luminous map across the vast celestial expanse. These sparkling clusters provided fixed points for future generations to navigate an untamed Earth. Every shimmering dot of light represented a divine presence taking its rightful place within the high domain of An. This grand celestial architecture featured brilliant geometric patterns that slowly rotated with flawless, mechanical precision. A celestial haven was now adorned with a myriad of luminous guides, providing quiet direction to the vacant world beneath. They moved with a deliberate sweeping rhythm across the vast skies, their cool twinkling light gently bathing over towering mountain peaks in an ethereal glow. It was a magnificent display of cosmic engineering, unfolding beautifully, without any mortal eyes to witness its profound majesty. Such a beautifully desolate environment possessed its own unique, majestic resonance. Only the gentle sighs of sweeping winds could be heard. A sprawling earthly garden lay dormant under the steady, watchful gaze of celestial deities. Slowly shifting shadows moved across barren plains with deliberate grace, keeping time in a realm devoid of the worldly conflict soon to come. Our dark canvas of creation was now beautifully painted with shimmering silver dust, preparing to welcome a restless new generation of younger deities. Beneath the shimmering canopy of a newly illuminated sky, a dormant universe prepared for a profound awakening. The jeweled mosaic of the heavens provided a perfect stage for another phase of cosmic evolution. A vast generation of younger deities, destined to become the mighty Anunnaki, began to slowly stir within the deep sanctuary of ancient waters. This magnificent emergence swept across the primordial world as a gentle ripple, traveling across an infinitely calm, mirrored surface. These new entities possessed a restless energy that stood in stark contrast to the heavy stillness of their ancestors. They drifted upward from the dark depths, carrying a radiant vitality that the formless void had never before experienced. As these youthful gods gathered together, their collective presence brought unprecedented motion to the silent world. Unlike the massive, immovable expanse of An, or the dense, unyielding foundation of Ki, this new generation was completely dynamic. Their immortal bodies flowed with a bright rushing momentum that defied the crushing weight of a primordial ocean. As these younger deities began to explore the vast open spaces of their newly separated kingdom, they moved with a sweeping, joyful grace that sent echoing currents rippling through the heavy waters of Abzu. Every sweeping gesture of their divine hands created a beautiful, cascading vibration across an endless aquatic expanse. This was not the slow, hypnotic shifting of ancient tides, but a rapid, pulsing cadence of vibrant life. They danced through the submerged halls of their ancestors, their joyful movements forging a continuously thrumming heartbeat. The sheer majesty of their cosmic celebration painted those dark waters with brilliant, cascading ribbons of divine light. A once stagnant ecosystem was suddenly alive with chaotic energy that swept luminously across the sprawling deltas. Unseen forces surged through deep crevasses, stirring the heavy river mud into a swirling, mesmerizing display. The immense static nature of our primeval mothers clashed with the restless ambition of their children, and a profound cosmic friction was born. The fragile tranquility of this coexistence was slowly fracturing under the overwhelming weight of constant movement. It started as a low mechanical vibration that resonated through the dense architecture of the early universe. Soon it blossomed into a loud rhythmic chorus of sweeping currents washing over earth in cascading waves. This growing clamor echoed endlessly upward, filling the high-vaulted dome of a newly opened sky. Enlil's rushing winds caught these joyful songs, carrying their divine melodies across barren, undeveloped wastelands. For the very first time in our cosmic history, the heavy blanket of absolute silence was permanently lifted. Such a dramatic shift in the universal order brought a brilliant, cascading vitality to its submerged depths. Younger gods playfully chased one another through the dense ocean of Tiamat. Their bright, immortal limbs cut effortlessly through the bitter salt tides, leaving trails of glowing, radiant foam in their wake. Countless millenniums of perfect, unbroken peace were completely forgotten in the wake of this exuberant, youthful display. The primordial waters were no longer a dark, empty womb waiting patiently for an unwritten future. They had become a vibrant, bustling sanctuary of endless motion. The universe was stretching its immortal limbs, shedding the cold, lethargic slumber of its primeval infancy. Yet this constant echoing vibration began to travel downward into the deepest, untouched corners of the ancient abyss. A joyful clamor of this younger generation pierced the heavy protective shadows wrapping around our resting elder gods. A deep, lingering tension slowly took root within the dark. The great sea mothers, who had known nothing but a soft embrace of absolute quiet, felt their peaceful domains shudder. While Abzu rested deep within his hidden freshwater reservoir, the relentless noise of his children began to stir him from his eternal sleep. His ancient heavy waters rippled with a new and unfamiliar sense of growing irritation. The flawless balance of this cosmic ecosystem was straining under the immense weight of such vibrant, restless energy. Our ancient universe desired only to return to the dark, formless slumber of its primeval past. A vast, undeveloped expanse watched in solemn silence as the rushing currents of divine ambition began to violently collide. Their endless motion echoed continuously throughout space, leaving no corner of the abyss untouched by their radiant presence. Ancient slumbering depths could no longer contain the escalating resonance of their own magnificent creation. Without a heavy sky to suppress their movements, younger deities continued their loud, exuberant dance across the liquid expanse. They were completely unaware that their beautifully echoing songs were slowly building toward a massive, inevitable disruption. Deep within a hidden sanctuary of those ancient waters, a dark and brooding threat was quietly preparing to swallow the world. Still, the young generations celebrated their newfound freedom, dancing blindly on the edge of an impending catastrophe. The immense waters of Abzu churned heavily beneath them, his deep hypnotic slumber permanently shattered by their radiant joy. This relentless clamor had finally shattered the elder's patience. A terrifying shadow gathered beneath the shimmering silver light of a newly awakened moon. The heavy, crushing weight of primordial waters was about to push back against the bright, rushing winds. Bitter currents of resentment swirled violently throughout all lower foundations of the resting world. Abzu sought to completely eliminate the vibrant life that had so suddenly invaded his quiet sanctuary. Every sweeping wave carried an ominous promise of devastating retaliation. The once flawless silence that had long inhabited the ancient abyss was permanently shattered by this chaotic uproar. Abzu could no longer endure the continuous mechanical disturbance echoing through his formless domain. He longed desperately for a swift return to the quiet, undisturbed epoch of his own primordial infancy. Such resolute desire for absolute stillness began to manifest as a dark, creeping malice within his ancient mind. Seeking counsel for his growing rage, Abzu summoned his faithful vizier, known to early scribes as Nammu. This shadowy entity embodied thick, obscuring mists that hovered silently above deep, unlit waters of the void. Nammu drifted effortlessly through this dark sanctuary, answering the urgent call of his furious master. Together, these two ancient forces rose through crushing depths to confront our great sea mother, Tiamat. Abzu presented bitter grievances before his yielding partner, letting profound frustration echo across the vast expanse. He explained that the restless, dynamic energy of their children had made peaceful sleep an impossibility for him, disturbing his sanctuary. Furthermore, Abzu promised to shatter their vibrant ways of life, violently restoring an original cosmic silence to our world. He demanded total annihilation of this new generation so that elder gods might rest once more in pure blackness. Tiamat received this terrifying proposal with profound shock, deep maternal anguish radiating throughout her ocean. She could not fathom turning against the magnificent, divine sparks they had so carefully nurtured into existence. She begged her furious partner to show compassion, urging him to exercise gentle discipline rather than committing to a complete erasure. Her immense saltwater currents shuddered with pure horror of such cold atrocities. The terrible thought of returning to an empty, lifeless void filled her maternal essence with absolute revulsion. Her very essence represented the passive, accommodating nature of her sea, willing to shift and make room for growing life. But the brooding Vizier Mumu stepped forward, whispering toxic encouragement directly into the ear of his master. He counseled the freshwater god to ignore the soft, merciful pleas of his weeping partner. Shadowy Mist urged Abzu to proceed with his merciless plan, reclaiming their quiet sanctuary by overwhelming force. Ancient clay records reveal that this wicked advice brought a terrible and dark joy to the heart of Abzu, corrupting his mind. His face brightened with firm resolve as he embraced his treacherous counselor, sealing the fate of our waking universe. A profound plot to drown all living worlds was firmly set into motion beneath cold, unlit waves. Word of the impending doom slowly filtered down to a younger generation of deities, altering the rhythm of their days. The vibrant, joyful music of their endless celebration quickly dissolved into a frantic and terrified silence. An overwhelming panic gripped their immortal hearts, realizing the sheer magnitude of the wrath to come. These dynamic beings suddenly understood that their beautiful existence was viewed as a hostile invasion of an ancient static order. They sat together in quiet desperation, their bright energy dimmed by the creeping, inevitable threat of an abyss which would swallow them whole. The heavy dark waters of Abzu were preparing to rise up and swallow the fragile light of creation. Once boisterous halls of the young gods were now filled with the sound of desperate, muffled weeping. They paced nervously through their airy domains, searching for any possible defense against a boundless liquid force. None among them possessed the raw physical strength necessary to hold back the infinite tides of a primeval ocean. Every shimmering spark of divine awareness felt the icy chill of approaching judgment and terrible retribution. Their rushing momentum slowed to a terrified crawl, paralyzed by the impossibility of their situation. The absolute silence they had broken was now returning to claim them as its permanent prisoners. Divine terror gripped a newly formed cosmos, paralyzing those vibrant young deities in their airy domains. Only one brilliant spark of soothing wisdom could possibly avert the cataclysmic collapse hovering on the horizon, providing a profound solution. Early Babylonian records identify this remarkable savior as Ea, also known as the Sumerian Enki, a master of cunning intelligence. He resided deep within those same aquatic realms, observing hidden currents with a quiet, deliberate focus. When word of this dark plot reached him, the wise water god refused to succumb to panic. Rather than forging heavy weapons for a violent war, Ea retreated into his own silent meditation to formulate a plan. He understood that combating raw physical force with equal aggression would only tear a fragile universe apart. A much more elegant solution was required to neutralize the ancient patriarch and secure permanent peace. Drawing upon profound subterranean magic, our brilliant deity began to weave an invisible defense. He structured a flawless cosmic lullaby designed specifically to pacify the churning, furious tides. His words were woven carefully together into a pure incantation, carrying no trace of destructive violence. This mesmerizing spell was a supreme act of his soothing, protective intellect. It was an ethereal rhythm composed of gentle vibrations carefully designed to mimic those slow-shifting currents of prehistory. Ea moved with absolute grace toward the epicenter of gathering wrath, carrying only his whispered enchantment. Furious waters boiled with a dark, suffocating menace as Abzu prepared to launch his devastation. Mist hovered heavily above these restless waves, guided by his treacherous vizier Mumu. Ea stood firmly before this chaotic surge, letting the rhythmic cadence of his voice wash over them. A soothing, repetitive mantra drifted across unlit surfaces, vibrating deeply within those dark, aquatic corridors. Every spoken syllable acted as a gentle weight, settling softly upon a raging primeval consciousness. Our furious patriarch slowly began to falter under this flawless hypnotic resonance. It was a beautiful display of supreme mental architecture, dissolving an overwhelming physical threat. Hypnotic verses echoed endlessly through the watery sanctuary, pulling the angry deity down into profound relaxation. Endless rolling waves gradually lost their violent edge, surrendering to the absolute stillness of intoxicating peace. Ea continued his mesmerizing chant without interruption, weaving his magic deeper into the ancient mind. Bitter resentment melted away into a heavy and unnatural slumber, a trance which wrapped around Abzu like a thick blanket of absolute darkness. The Supreme Father felt his massive form growing incredibly heavy, sinking back into a formless, tranquil state. His raging thoughts dissolved completely into a vast emptiness, removing all desire for cosmic retaliation. Soon, the entire subterranean ocean rested in perfectly unbroken stillness. Nammu struggled desperately against this enveloping quiet, trying to keep his bitter anger alive. A shadowy vizier was left breathless with agitation, paralyzed by those overwhelmingly soothing vibrations. He found himself entirely trapped within a dense magical fog, unable to rouse his slumbering master. The primordial threat had been peacefully neutralized without spilling a single drop of divine essence. Ea approached his sleeping ancestor with a reverent sense of respect, to ensure that this deep trance would never be broken. He moved gracefully through those pacified waters, preparing to claim his rightful dominion over them. To permanently secure this tranquil victory, our wise god carefully removed the ancient aura of power. He stripped away the shimmering crown of primeval supremacy, leaving the old world order completely disarmed. Ea placed these majestic symbols upon his own head, finalizing a bloodless transfer of celestial authority. With this transformation, the era of static, unyielding stagnation was officially brought to a graceful conclusion. The suffocating dread that had paralyzed the younger deities instantly vanished into thin air. Vibrant sparks of life rejoiced silently within their airy realms, realizing their fragile existence was finally safe. Subterranean waters were no longer the hostile, brooding enemy plotting to swallow a waking universe. They had been transformed back into a passive reservoir by a brilliant application of pure intellect. The flawless cosmic lullaby continued to echo softly through the depths, guaranteeing an eternity of rest. Chaos yielded gracefully to a highly organized melodic structure, proving that wisdom conquers brute strength. This peaceful transition from violence into harmony allowed a complex physical reality to finally flourish. Deep resonant hums of magical verses replaced all chaotic noise and established a steady heartbeat for the ages to come. The heavy gears of existence continued turning beneath those black waves, settling into their proper cosmic alignment. Our great Sea Mother Tiamat watched silently from afar, absorbing this sudden shift in celestial hierarchy. Her immense salt tides remained peacefully separated from those sweet resting waters of her former partner. She offered no violent retaliation against this bloodless coup, accepting the new era with maternal grace. Those young deities above were now completely free to dance and exert their vibrant energy across open spaces. Their joyful melodies echoed continuously through a high vaulted dome washing over newly dried mud. A sprawling earthly garden waited patiently for unseen seeds to bloom, nourished by these gentle shifting tides. Every shimmering drop of fresh water carried a quiet promise of future creation locked within a dark abyss. Ea stood quietly over his pacified ancestor, feeling a sense of deep connection resonate through every single droplet of sweet moisture that now filled his vast aquatic domain. With his brilliant mind focused entirely on ensuring eternal peace, this remarkably wise water god began meticulously constructing the most magnificent freshwater sanctuary ever conceived. He built his glorious underwater abode directly upon the motionless, resting body of Abzu, permanently securing absolute dominion over those massive liquid foundations without causing any further harm. Shimmering protective walls of pure ancient magic rose slowly from the deep ocean floor, glowing softly with an ethereal light that beautifully illuminated every hidden corner of his kingdom. This radiant fortress became known to early scribes as the sacred Abzu, serving faithfully as an impenetrable haven of supreme logic, hidden safely beneath the chaotic shifting surface. Ea wandered through these spacious new halls with sweeping grace, pausing to admire how smoothly every aquatic element had settled into its proper placement. The celestial hierarchy had finally found an unshakable equilibrium, and a beautiful era of serene resolution gently washed over every living entity currently residing within those expansive, airy realms far above. Vibrant young deities danced freely across an open sky, their joyful movements perfectly matching the steady heartbeat of early creation. Yet even amidst all this exuberant celebration, a solemn realization slowly took hold. Such an immense world of untamed wilderness required constant heavy maintenance to survive, demanding relentless attention from its immortal inhabitants to prevent the systemic collapse of their fragile reality. Barren terrestrial plains waited patiently for unseen seeds of life to eventually bloom, requiring complex networks of protective irrigation to adequately nurture any future agricultural growth. Unruly rivers needed careful and deliberate guidance to prevent devastating floods. Towering mud-brick temples would eventually demand immediate construction to house a rapidly growing pantheon of divine figures. These unrelenting administrative burdens weighed heavily on the resting minds of our senior creators, who truly wished only to enjoy their hard-won peace without any worldly interruption. The most ancient of the deities had flatly refused to sacrifice their own hard-earned tranquility to engage in the grueling physical labor necessary to cultivate the damp river mud below. To bear this immense earthly burden, a completely new, robust generation of lesser divine beings was suddenly brought into existence from an overflowing abundance of raw, cosmic energy. Ancient clay tablets identify these subordinate figures as the EGG, forged specifically by supreme powers to shoulder all the backbreaking responsibilities of a rapidly developing physical world. These diligent, tireless workers materialized silently within a quiet void, fully prepared to dig deep, winding watercourses through layers of dense soil without uttering a single complaint. They accepted their demanding role without any immediate hesitation, willingly taking up their heavy wooden tools with a deeply ingrained sense of unified purpose. The gods watched closely from their luminous shrines with deep satisfaction, knowing their majestic paradise was entirely secure and beautifully tended by highly capable immortal hands. A soothing feeling of deep cosmic settling permeated every layer of reality, reaching from those highest starry vaults down to Ea, resting peacefully in his newly built kingdom. These senior gods lounged comfortably upon their elevated, sparkling thrones, sipping sweet nectar while remaining completely insulated from the arduous demands of maintaining a vast, undeveloped landscape. Endless rolling tides mirrored the calm rotation of glittering constellations high above, uniting all distinct elements of creation into a breathtakingly harmonious symphony. A gentle warmth bathed the earth, coaxing fragile green shoots from the fertile silt along the riverbanks. Dedicated Ijiji marched steadily toward those virgin fields, their broad, sturdy shoulders carrying woven baskets meant to transport the raw materials of a budding civilization. Everything necessary for an intricate, flourishing web of life had been carefully established by supreme intellect, leaving absolutely no functional detail to chance. The vast wilderness rested safely beneath a dense shroud of twinkling celestial lights, waiting patiently for those diligent lesser gods to fulfill their monumental task. While countless shimmering stars maintain their eternal vigil from the heavens, they stand absolute, nurturing the earth below. Within the unreachable heights of the atmosphere, the Anunnaki lapsed into a deep and peaceful slumber. Cool evening shadows slowly lengthened across quiet plains as a soothing veil of uninterrupted grace blanketed all of creation. As you listen and share these stories, you become a part of this deep history. The world retreats, the intricate structures of the day dissolve into the fluid grace of a peaceful dream. Your heartbeat slows, falling into a quiet alignment with the heavy, cyclical shifting of the world's seasons. This great engine of existence vibrates with a steady, grounding hum, fueled by a primal sorcery sown into the fertile earth at the very dawn of time. Release your consciousness to roam the glowing corridors of antiquity, where you might walk among the wise mentors who rose from the still depths of the primordial ocean. These serene messengers may share their immortal insights with your dreaming spirit, instilling a weightless, enduring clarity of cosmic balance. In the velvet grip of the night, our thoughts drift toward the stunning mystery of how all began. This sacred thread of history acts as a silent vow that the flame of wisdom will never be extinguished, that we can sleep trusting in the cosmos to follow a flawless, intentional path. As the solid world blurs and fades, a final whisper of thought settles over the threshold of slumber. The vast expanse of the past welcomes us into the eternal march of time, tethered to the rhythmic, hushed breathing of the ancient earth. We rest now, infused in the profound silence of the stars, a continuance of this silent and majestic legacy.